Still on to TVC News, and we've been discussing the ongoing climate summit. And joining me live from Sharm El Sheikh is the Minister of Environment, Mohammed Abdullahi. He was giving his thoughts earlier on the expectations at the summit, which have centered on the loss and damage. Good to have you on the news at this time, sir. So you were talking to us earlier about the inroads made in regards to the loss and damage talks at the ongoing climate summit. Could you let's quickly have your thoughts on that?
Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity to speak to Nigerians particularly and highlight the progress so far made in terms of negotiations at the COP level. Like I was trying to say earlier, the African position through what we call the African Ministers of Environment have articulated a position from Dakar, which essentially forms the basis of the African position at COP27. We're looking at not only loss and damage, we're looking at energy transition plan, and we're also looking at issues of adaptation plans. Now, the most important thing is that we've been able to make some traction in terms of going forward with adaptation for Africa. In most major speeches, for instance, from the pre-COP agenda setting meeting, it was made clear and adopted that the issue of loss and damage, the issue of adaptation must be in the agenda. Secondly, in most speeches by world leaders, particularly when President Joe Biden came to Sharm El Sheikh to speak about the challenges of climate change, he specifically mentioned the flood in Africa and mentioned with figures the number of persons dead or that died in Nigeria's flood. So you can see that the issue of loss and damage linked to flood and other disasters that are natural have been adequately captured. So Africa is making progress in terms of negotiations. As we speak now, once I'm done with you, I'll go back to the negotiation table. The African group of negotiators are also talking about adaptation. And so far, there appears to be some level of commitment in terms of funding. For instance, the African Development Bank have committed about $25 billion for adaptation in Africa. Then there's a global environment fund, and what we call the Green Climate Fund. They have all committed to some kind of funding to support African adaptation plans. And when you go to specific, the UK, the German government, the DFID, the GIZ, all of them have committed to a certain number of figures in terms of support for Nigeria's adaptation plan. So we are making progress. We have been able to, do what we call track the funds as it were today.
Apologies for me to come in here, but no, there are concerns now of unfulfilled promises made by the developing countries, by the developed countries during past COPs. Now, what is being done to ensure we have a positive climate fund in action, for developed countries, even after the summit? With what you've said so far, we have there's a commitment from African Development Bank of about $75 billion. What is being done that everything will not just end as talk, but there will be complete action in this regard?
Okay, you see, the nature of the negotiations are usually done in blocks. There is the Latin American bloc, the African bloc, the North American bloc, and the European bloc. Now, as we try to advance Africa's cause, there appears to be some pushbacks from our colleagues from Latin America. They seem to think, unfortunately, that Africa is taking too much advantage because the COP is taking place in Africa. So there's a pushback on their part, which is, somehow inhibiting on our, strategy and ability to get commitment, from our European partners and other developing countries. However, in spite of that, we're reaching out to them. And Europe has committed to accepting the fact that, yes, there have been a lot of pressure on them to accept the fact that the developed countries have done so much in terms of industrialization that are affected negatively, developing countries. So there is this commitment, there is this acceptance of the fact that, yes, there is a need for them to support developing countries, but for them to commit to specific figures, is what we're having some problems and challenges. But we are determined to negotiate and push the agenda forward, ensure that we have tangible, specific commitments in terms of figures for developing countries to support, one, adaptation, and to support transition plans, towards renewables. So it's still work in progress. Like I told you, as we speak now, we're going back to table for negotiation. It starts from 12 midnight, and it goes until the end of COP. So we hope to see what we can do to project, our interests as a country and as a.
All right. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister of Environment. We appreciate your thoughts tonight on TVC News at 10.
Thank you so much.